How's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of Friday Night Smackdown for May the 7th, 2021. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership. This was a special retro edition of Smackdown, a throwback Smackdown. Basically done because NASCAR on Fox is doing a throwback weekend, and Fox thought, why not have SmackDown be a throwback as well? Oofman Entertainment with a $2 super chat says, that damn set, what the hell? All right, let's talk about the look of the throwback SmackDown before we get to the actual show. We opened with the then, now, forever, but it was the 1980s WWE signature opening with the WWF logo, or the WWE logo now, in outer space. They've used it before. That has been used before. Nothing new. It's cool, but it's been done before. We had an intro for SmackDown with The Rock, along with music from Primetime Wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong. I love nostalgia. I think it's great. And 80s nostalgia, I'm down for. But one of the issues I had with everything that was done on this show, as far as the throwback stuff goes, they were blending in early years of SmackDown with 1980s WWE, which did not work in my opinion, because SmackDown started in 1999, so you're not going to have any of this 80s stuff associated with SmackDown. It was ridiculous. We had the old SmackDown from the late 90s / Raw is War pyro to open up the show. You had Michael Cole wearing his denim outfit that he wore back in the day, and it's actually a costume in the No Mercy video game on Nintendo 64. That I liked, a throwback to the Attitude Era when SmackDown first started. Makes sense. Then you had Pat McAfee wearing a Vince McMahon suit from the 1980s, which of course has absolutely nothing to do with SmackDown. Something that was related to SmackDown, we had the virtual fist. People were hoping for the actual fist for SmackDown, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. WWE wasn't going to ship that fist from Connecticut all the way down to Florida for a show at the Thunderdome. Just was not going to happen. So we had a virtual fist. I suppose a virtual fist is better than nothing. Curtis Butler says virtual fisting. James says the Thunderdome is a virtual fist to all of us. Ouch. That might be the savage line of the night so far. We had a recap shown of the very first SmackDown. The main event of that show, of course, was Triple H versus The Rock, with Shawn Michaels in his short shorts as the referee. And throughout the show, we had various clips from old SmackDowns. Okay, that's fine. It's a throwback. Makes sense. We had a lot of older SmackDown moments, which also made sense. You don't want to be showing like 2015 SmackDown moments. We had clips of Steve Austin attacking Booker T in the supermarket in Bakersfield, California. I was actually at that supermarket one time just to get a picture with the dairy section where Austin came out drinking the milk. Big Show getting suplexed by Brock Lesnar, the ring breaking. We got that. Hogan and Edge winning the tag team titles. John Cena's debut, accepting the Kurt Angle challenge. I think there was one with Vince McMahon and Eddie Guerrero in the Lowrider. We had several commercials during the show. We had icopro. I always think of icopro when I think of SmackDown, And we also had a commercial for the ice cream bars, which I think there were ice cream bars during the Attitude Era because I remember getting Edge and Christian ice cream bars. So I know that there were ice cream bars past the 1980s. But yeah, the icopro, they also did that before, I think, for the Raw show in January 2018, the anniversary show. And they've probably done it on other throwback / retro shows as well. But it's funny, you know, the icopro stuff. It's a nice throwback, I suppose. So we had the show start off with Roman Reigns come into the ring to celebrate his victory over Daniel Bryan. Jey Uso had the right-hand man t-shirt. A recap was shown of last week. And they were also using the old school graphics from the 1980s. Again, not really something that was associated with SmackDown. Why not use like the original SmackDown graphics? Why do you have to use the 1980s graphics? Anyways, Paul Heyman did a 10-bell salute for Daniel Bryan. That was pretty funny. We had the piped in "You suck" chants, and Reigns said he was a man of his word. He did what he said he would do. And all he wanted was for Daniel Bryan to acknowledge him. Bryan did not do that, so Reigns had to get rid of him. And then Reigns announced that since Bryan was gone, Bryan would be replaced with someone on SmackDown that will acknowledge him. And that led to Jimmy Uso finally coming back. The 1 week I don't say anything about Jimmy Uso, he's back. That's all I have to do, just not talk about him, and that's when he returns. So they picked a good time to bring him back because this was not a week I was expecting him to come back. So there you go. You bring him back when you're not expecting it. And it worked in this case. And they started up this storyline again, which we had back in the fall heading into that Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and then Jimmy disappeared again. Now we got that storyline going again. Jimmy came into the ring, embraced his brother Jey, but Cesaro quickly interrupted and said Daniel Bryan can never be replaced. Seth Rollins quickly jumped Cesaro from behind, and that's when holla, 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 players, Teddy Long showed up, and on behalf of Adam Pearce gave him the power, the authority to say that if Cesaro could defeat Seth Rollins, Cesaro will get a championship match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash. Reigns then attacked Cesaro, and Rollins took advantage of Cesaro, leading into our first commercial break. And then after the break, we had our match. But before I get to that, Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, so the one time you don't mention Jimmy, he returns, LOL. Yeah, and I'm okay with it. I'm glad he was brought back on this show. It made sense with what they did on this show and the idea that Jimmy was replacing Bryan. I like how they set that up. Instead of just having Jimmy interfere in another match, causing Reigns to retain the title. TJS with a $3 super chat. Thank you for that, Tyler. He says, 2-minute Divas matches really was a throwback SmackDown. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Hey, people are shaming TJS for being off topic. At least he's on the same show, because there are some times where TJS just goes on a completely off topic, not even related to the show that I'm recapping. So thank you, TJS, I suppose, for at least being on the same show, but still, shame. All right. We had our match, Cesaro and Rollins rematch from WrestleMania. The Usos were at ringside watching. Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman were watching backstage in Reigns' throne room. Back and forth match here. Cesaro started to make a comeback. Jey got on the apron, and that led to Rollins hitting the superplex and Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Cesaro made another comeback, got the sharpshooter on, but then Rollins regained control. Cesaro was sent to the outside and Rollins went to the outside. You had Jay there at ringside and Rollins yelled at Jay, telling Jay to stay out of his business. Rollins said he does not need Jay's help, and Jay grabbed at Rollins. Rollins shoved Jay down. Jimmy came to the aid of his brother and super kicked Rollins. Referee did not see this. Cesaro did a big dive over the top onto Jimmy and then got Rollins back in the ring, finished off Rollins with the neutralizer to pick up the victory and secure his spot at the WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view. I liked this. I really liked this a lot. Walter Cruz with a $2 super chat says, is Cesaro done with Rollins? I'm thinking this was the last match, and I'm thinking this planted the seeds for a Seth Rollins babyface turn, which I'll get to here in a few moments. TJS with a $3 super chat. Well, since we're on a commercial break right now, I think, TJS says, bag alert, major bag alert, major bag alert, which is the Wendy's commercial. I have to say, it's a catchy commercial. Not gonna lie. I want a major bag right now. I could really go for that. Maybe this weekend. We had, after the commercial, after the Wendy's major bag alert, we had Seth Rollins talking to Roman Reigns, saying that son of a bitch Jimmy cost him. And Rollins wanted to know, who should he be pissed at? Should he be pissed at Jimmy or should he be pissed at Roman? And Reigns said that Rollins screwed him over by losing. And when it comes to his family, he will handle it. Rollins said Reigns better handle it or else he will. And this, like I said, I feel like this is planting the seeds for Rollins versus Reigns. The little friction here between these guys, I could see escalating and Seth Rollins making that babyface turn and maybe even aligning with Cesaro, the two of them burying the hatchet, and Rollins is finally back on the good side again. James with a $2 super chat says, this is his TJS impression. Thoughts on Monday Night Raw from January 27th, 2001. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that was the night after the Royal Rumble, although I don't remember what happened. I think they did that storyline where Steve Austin and Triple H could not touch each other for No Way Out. So I'm guessing something involving that happened on that episode of Raw. Oh, didn't Haku show up? Somebody look this up. The January 27th, 2001 Raw, was that the show where Haku showed up? Actually, I think he was on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Yeah, he was. But he was on Raw that night. I remember something with Haku. That's about all I remember. All right, let's move on here. We had Teddy Long backstage with Sonya Deville. No Adam Pearce. Teddy Long was there, basically replacing Pearce for one night. And you had Sami Zayn show up. Sami Zayn wanted a rematch for the Intercontinental title, but instead Teddy Long decided to make a match between Sami Zayn and The Undertaker. Sami, of course, had to tell Teddy that, well, Undertaker is retired. I'm pretty sure they did this joke too already. So, yeah. Oh, and James says January 27th is his birthday. He just pulled that date out of his ass. Oh, well, whatever the post-WrestleMania, or not WrestleMania, Royal Rumble episode of Raw was from January, I think Haku did something on that show. So anyways, then Teddy Long decided to make a tag team match because, you know, the joke here was Teddy does all the matches, makes all the matches that he used to make back in the day. Wanted to make a tag team match with Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews. And Sami was like, well, he actually wants a match against Apollo Crews because Apollo has the IC title. And finally, Teddy made a 10-man tag team match. And in that match would be all these guys, including King Booker. And they, of course, had to remind him again that King Booker is retired. And then Teddy did some dance moves. So, funny segment, but yeah, a lot of the jokes with Teddy Long, they've done many times in the past with him making a match against somebody in The Undertaker and doing the tag matches. You know, the joke's been done. Backstage, we had Roman Reigns confronting Jimmy, saying that in 1 hour, Jimmy has already screwed things up. And Reigns said that he did Jimmy a favor. Jimmy was getting upset. Jimmy said that Reigns will not be talking to him like he does to Jay. Jimmy said he is nobody's bitch. And he walked out on the tribal chief. I am loving this, by the way. I am so glad WWE is going with this storyline. I said this months ago when Jimmy was getting involved. I said when the time comes that Jimmy is cleared, he comes back, he should not be there taking orders from Roman Reigns. He should not be fully on board with the tribal chief. He should still be defiant. And you got to have Roman beat it into him, and you got to do that storyline. So I'm glad WWE is doing it this way. Jimmy's not coming in. You know, I was afraid he would just show up and immediately be completely 100% with Roman Reigns. I like how they're doing this where Jimmy has to fall in line. Jimmy, as soon as he walked off, I'm like, dude, you're going to get your ass kicked. That's exactly how I want it to feel. I'm like, perfect. This is how you do it. You got to have Jimmy rebel, and eventually he's going to fall in line. And it's going to be a fun storyline. So yeah, I liked this a lot. I thought this was really well done. And there's more, so stay tuned. Moving on here to the next segment, we had Ruby Riott versus Carmella. And going back to what TJS said earlier, this was like a throwback to early SmackDown when the women would get like 2-minute matches. This match was literally like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Like the whole match could be uploaded to a Twitter video. You had Liv Morgan getting on the apron. She got knocked off. And the two of them, Ruby and Carmella, traded near falls. But then Carmella got the code of silence on and won. Again, the match was like 2 minutes. Seriously. There's a YouTube clip. The whole match is under that 2-minute and 20-second time limit that Twitter has. Did I say YouTube? I meant Twitter. Gary says this was not a dance break with Carmella. It was a piss break. There you go. Throwback. We had Bayley come to the ring to celebrate all of the women's champions in WWE history. She said, believe it or not, she's not there to talk about herself. She brought up Alundra Blaze, Jacqueline, Lita, Trish, Ivory, Beth Phoenix, and Molly Holly, and Bianca Belair. However, she started to talk trash about Bianca, saying Bianca is insecure and Bianca is going to be losing the title. Bayley said she'll be the first and last challenger that Bianca has. Bianca quickly interrupted, said that her confidence empowers her and maybe Bayley should be worried about herself. Bayley just started laughing. I guess this is her new gimmick where she laughs at Bianca. I find it kind of annoying and not in a good heel way, more like I want to change the channel way. But they're doing this, they're running with it now, and maybe it'll catch on, maybe it won't. Bayley then tried, at least temporarily, Bayley did by pulling at the earring that Bianca had and then stepping on Bianca's hair. Bayley got the last laugh in this segment. And of course, they got a match coming up at WrestleMania Backlash. We had a backstage segment with Jimmy and Jay. Jimmy said Jay is Roman's bitch. And what Jay does benefits Roman. Jimmy said they need each other. And Roman doesn't need Jay. Roman is the Universal Champion. Jimmy said they need to focus on once again becoming the tag team champions. We then had Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler, or what we thought was going to be Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler. And before the match, Ziggler cut a promo. He was trash-talking Dominic, saying that Dominic does not deserve to be in the wrestling business. He's nothing but Rey's little kid, and started asking Dominic if he was going to cry. Dominic, he was staying calm, but he proposed taking Rey's place in the match. And Ziggler, of course, was happy about this. They had the match. Ziggler slapped him around. Dominic slapped back. And this was another pretty short match. And Dominic countered a suplex attempt into a small package and picked up the victory. So Dominic with the surprise upset win, I guess. And this sets up their tag team title match coming up at Wrestlemania Backlash. Dominic beats Dolph Ziggler. I mean, if Ziggler actually had a good win-loss record, I think people would care, but Ziggler loses constantly, so what's the big deal? We had Reginald backstage challenging Tamina to a match, and Reginald was wearing a Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler t-shirt. And then we had another backstage segment with Roman Reigns. He was pondering in deep thought, and he summoned Heyman. He told Heyman to go get his cousin. And Heyman was like, which one? And Reigns was like, you know the one. And Heyman was like, understood. We then had our match between Reginald and Tamina, which is pretty much the same thing we saw with Reginald the last time he was in a match. You know, Tamina would try to attack him. He's doing all these flips. It was more entertaining the first time around, I will say. And he kept moving around. He started dancing, and then he finally got super kicked. And then Tamina went for the Superfly Splash, but then Shayna attacked her. For some reason, Tamina decided to climb the corner where Shayna and Nia Jax were. Why not climb the other corner so they have to run all the way to the other side to try and knock you off or distract you? So even though she did not lose by being distracted, I'm still going with it. Stupid babyface. Why do you climb up in the corner where the people that tend to get on the apron and interfere are? Like, why would you do that? So yeah, Shayna knocked Tamina off the apron, or off the top rope, I should say, causing a DQ. And then Natalya got beat up for her troubles, trying to help her friend. Tamina attempted to fight back. She got overwhelmed, and the champ stood tall. And there will be a tag team match on next week's show for the women's tag team titles. And I'm not expecting a title change, but who knows at this point? And really, does anybody care? That's the better question. We had a 10-man tag team match. Apollo, Corbin, Gable, Otis, and Zayn against the Prophets, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Big E. I liked what they did before the match, where they did these retro throwback Survivor Series style promos where everybody's all hyped up and talking loudly and just being very animated. I thought that was a nice throwback for the throwback SmackDown, even though, again, this was like 80s and not the early years of SmackDown. We had our tag team match. Zayn took some cheap shots when the referee wasn't looking. There's a huge brawl that broke out, and the heels did get the advantage after the commercial break. Shin finally got the hot tag. Zayn had nobody to tag. All hell broke loose again. And then you had Shin going for the Kinshasa to Zayn. However, Zayn managed to get tagged by Corbin. Shin did not see this. Shin did hit the Kinshasa to Zayn, but he went for the cover, not realizing Corbin was the legal man. Corbin came in, hit the end of days, and pinned Sami. Or not Sami, Shin. And the one thing I don't like about this is that they do this finish a lot in tag team matches in WWE where there's a tag and the opposing side doesn't know there's a tag. Like, they do this way too often, in my opinion. So I wasn't the biggest fan of this match, but I really liked the Survivor Series style promos at the beginning. That was my favorite part. And then we had our final segments of the show. Backstage, we had Roman Reigns with Jay. And he said he loves Jay. He loves Jay's brother. But he needs to know where Jimmy stands if he's going to give Jimmy the same opportunities. We had our final segment. We had Jimmy interrupt Roman Reigns in the ring. And Jimmy wanted to know where Jay stands. And then he showed footage from the I Quit match at Hell in a Cell. And then Jimmy said to Roman that he would never say I quit to Roman, no matter what. Roman responded by saying that Jimmy is in the past. He's stuck in the past. Roman, him and Jay have moved on. And Roman said it's simple. Fall in line, acknowledge him, or take his ass home. Roman said that Jimmy, if he doesn't fall in line, doesn't acknowledge him, he'll have to sit at home and explain to his kids why he's not there on SmackDown with the tribal chief and main event Jay. Jimmy considered it for a moment and then he left the ring. Jay ran out after him, trying to talk some sense into him, said just acknowledge him. That's when we had Cesaro attacking Reigns. Jay got into the ring, tried to defend Roman, but he got overwhelmed by Cesaro. And then Jimmy went in to go and try and help his brother, but Cesaro got the upper hand on Jimmy as well. And Cesaro ended up taking out Jay with the neutralizer, and the show ended with Cesaro standing tall over Reigns, Jay, and Jimmy. Great ending to the show. I love this storyline with Jay being stuck in the middle, and Jimmy is rebelling against Roman, and Roman's trying to build his empire, and Jay is still loyal to Roman. Jimmy's loyal to Jay. I thought this was all great, the way they laid everything out on this show with the Usos and Roman Reigns. So, thumbs up for this. And as Curtis Butler says, I definitely think they should do a Jimmy versus Jay match before they reform the team. I think they should have a singles match, and they should let this storyline play out for a couple months before we get the full-blown reunion of Roman Reigns and the Usos together as this powerhouse trio. You know, let it play out for a couple months. Maybe even do Roman Reigns versus Jimmy Uso. I mean, I would definitely do both of those matches. And of course, you still have Seth Rollins. I think the seeds have been planted for a Rollins babyface turn to align with Cesaro, and the two of them can bury the hatchet. And I hope that's where they're going with it. So yeah, this SmackDown, really strong show from a storyline perspective. The throwback stuff was entertaining, but the 80s stuff did not really fit in with the SmackDown retro theme. And the rest of the show was kind of just okay. So a lot of good stuff with the main storyline, and the other stuff was largely forgettable. Walter Cruz with a $3 super chat says, Cesaro botched the neutralizer on Jimmy. Yeah, you're right. I almost forgot about that. Caitlin actually did point that out, and I had missed it. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, so letter grade for the show, I am going with a solid B. The strength of this show was everything involving Reigns, and the Usos. And the throwback stuff, it was fine, but a lot of it's been done before. And then the rest of the show kind of brought it down a little bit. But yeah, solid B. I highly recommend checking out everything involving Roman Reigns on this show. Seeing a lot of B's in the chat room from Curtis Butler, Nick Lavin, Israel Diaz, Walter, MVP Kev, Dr. NXT Scorpio. The game is on 100. That's a lot of B's. Daniel with a C-, Ace and his familiar Vlogs with an A-, and Maud W with an A- as well. And yes, MVP Kev, I agree. The 80s theme made no sense when SmackDown started in 99. And, other than Teddy Long, there were no other appearances, which, I'm okay with. If you're going to bring back some people, though, like Teddy Long makes sense, at least, because people associate him with SmackDown. Like, I was worried they were going to, bring in Sergeant Slaughter and Jim Duggan, although Jim Duggan was in that ice cream bars commercial. Guys that had nothing to do with SmackDown. But for what they did, it was fine. The Teddy Long stuff, it was entertaining, even if it's been done before. Mike D with a $2 super chat, thank you for that, says SummerSlam being held earlier this year. Yeah, that's the rumor right now. See, here's the thing, to quote Jeff Meacham. WWE's contract with the University of South Florida, that venue, that expires, I believe, August 3rd. That's probably going to be the last Thunderdome show. And what I could see them doing, that's a Tuesday, August 2nd, I could see that being the last Raw at Thunderdome, and then they could tape SmackDown for that Friday. And then after that, that Sunday, I could see being SummerSlam. So what date would that be? That would be like August 8th, I think, because August 9th would be a week after August 2nd, a Monday. So yeah, August 8th, I could see being the SummerSlam date, since that'll be the first WWE show after the Thunderdome lease expires. And then from that point on, that Monday, August 9th, they can go back to touring if they feel it's safe to do that. Mike B with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Mike B. Says, match for SummerSlam. The wacky, wavy, inflatable tube man versus Rambling Rabbit and Husky the Pig versus Kenny and Cartman. Holla, holla, holla player. That sounds like something that they would put on like the free-for-all back in the day. Like Huckster versus the Nacho Man. You do some ridiculous comedy match, or that WLC match. El Torito versus Hornswoggle. Like, that seems like something that they would do as like a pre-show comedy match. Which I'd be okay with. Like, if you're going to do a kickoff match, why not just do a super goofy comedy match? Or you know what? Remember those karate fighters? For any of you that remember, speaking of throwbacks, remember the karate fighters tournaments that WWE used to do? Like you could do a Firefly Funhouse karate fighters tournament, like Rambling Rabbit versus Husky the Pig, and do a bunch of other characters, and they can advance in a tournament. Shouldn't give Vince ideas. I really shouldn't. Mike D with a $2 super chat says, rumors that SummerSlam might be in Vegas. Yeah, that's another rumor. The WrestleVotes Twitter account posted something about SummerSlam and used the term against the odds, which of course is gambling, Las Vegas, whatever. Oofman Entertainment with a $5 super chat says, thoughts on the Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring episode? Mine is, what the hell happened to Melanie Pillman? I have the same question as you after watching that documentary. So far, so good. That was part 1 that aired. Part 2 should be airing fairly soon, within the next week or so. I thought it was a good documentary. And yeah, Melanie Pillman... yikes. That's all I have to say. Take care of yourself, people. I mean, that's rough. And that whole story about Brian's previous woman and what happened to her. Really sad. I mean, just a very sad story, and I thought it was pretty accurate with everything, and no real issues with how they were telling the story of Pillman. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate your viewership and support. If you liked this video, please give it a like, spread the word on social media, tell a friend. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest wrestling news and rumors, and I will see you guys next time.